It's Patio Side Chats with Fernando Martinez from Chaparral Pavers with tips and advice on landscaping and gardening. Here's Fernando Martinez.
Yes, indeed. I am Fernando Martinez. Thanks for joining me here on this edition of Patio Side Chats with Chaparral, sponsored by Chaparral Pavers, your local landscape contracting company right here on the Central Coast, California. This is the place where you get your gardening tips and landscaping advice. And today's show, I wanted to focus on the why, really, and why we landscape, why do we do these projects and take our time, effort, energy, and money. One thing I want you to think about, and what I think about all the time is, you know, you take on a project, you decide, you make the decision, I want to fix up my yard, I want it to look nice, you know, or I want, I got family coming over, or, you know, just I'm tired of looking at these weeds, or maybe you bought a new house and there's dirt in the backyard. So today what I want to talk about and really discuss and go over is the plan, the whole planning aspect of it, of what to do. It can be overwhelming to take on, especially if it's a large project. You're spending tens of thousands of dollars to get this thing done. You're hiring a contractor. You're going to really want to improve the value of your home. You're going to make the quality of your life better, but you want to do it for the right reasons. And the more clear you are on the reasons why and understanding how you're going to use that space is going to help you make better decisions along the whole process from beginning to end, and how to really implement what you want and get that best use out of your money and the best value, everything. And so that's really today's topic. And it's a feeling. It's not a thing. You know, what I'm talking about isn't, do I want pavers? Do I want a fire pit? Do I want, you know, plants and sod and sprinklers and all this kind of stuff? That's the how, that's the what, but it's not the why. And that's one of the main reasons for this company is I love to come home. It's a feeling of loving it. It's a feeling of family. It's a place of gathering. It's, do you want to entertain? Do you have sports, or, you know, do we have animals, or how you see yourself using it will really steer, and it should help you put that plan in place, help steer the project as to how it goes, which aspects you choose and why, and really should be the basis for all your decisions. You should always go back to that. Once you decide on that why and you figure out what it is that you want to do and why you want to do it, the decision-making process becomes much easier and much more fluid. And if you go back to that initial, you know, even if you were to write it down and say, okay, here's what we're trying to accomplish. And then as the contractor's asking you questions, or you're just trying to decide if you want to spend your money on this project or that part of it, to me, it becomes much simpler, more clear, straightforward. So we also got my partner here joining me today, Mr. Jonathan Araya. How are you?
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good day.
Good day, and thanks for coming in and helping me out. If I were to come to you and say, what would be examples of how my yard would feel and why would I want to do a re-landscape?
So I think that's a great question, especially at this stage in my life, because I just redid my backyard. I have a smaller backyard, but before it was just weeds and grass and dirt, and, you know, there wasn't anything there. Now, even just walking by the patio, you know, sliding door and looking out of the window and, you know, looking at what I have back there, the plants and, you know, the turf and the patio, it creates a feeling of relaxation, a feeling of, you know, that feeling.
How do your kids, you know, you've got 2 kids, I know,
yeah.
and like family gatherings, you know, the use of it, and how do the kids respond with what you've done?
So I had turf before previously, and, you know, it was kind of a mess. It had to be watered. It was uneven, and the drainage where I live wasn't too good. So it had kind of a stagnant water smell every time. So it was kind of a burden going outside, you know, and the kids kind of felt the same way because they didn't want to get all muddy. So what I basically did was do away with the sod and I put in synthetic turf, and the kids absolutely love it. They go outside on the hammock, they're swinging, they're playing ball back there. Shoot, sometimes they'll even rake the synthetic turf, So it's kind of a feeling of fun for them too, to see something it looks like grass, feels like it, but it isn't. So
yeah, and you don't have the smell and the watering and the maintenance and everything. And so, well, okay, that's another thing that comes up all the time living here on the Central Coast is the water issue and wanting to save water, not wanting to use too much. So, okay, that could be a reason why, and say, okay, but how does that look? How do we move forward with saving water, taking our lawn out? But if we lose sight of what we're going to use it for and how we're going to use it, which is, to me, why you chose artificial turf, is because you still wanted to be able to use that area in a way that you were using it before, or somehow even better. Yeah,
so a perfect example of how I can now use that area is we like to play games, lawn games. So, cornhole, there's Texas washer toss. Now I was able to create that area and make it perfectly level. And now when we're playing games, that both sides, it could be a disadvantage because now I can't cheat and take the side that doesn't have the slope.
not that you would try to cheat your kids or anything.
No. So it's kind of, you're
win at all costs. Yeah, come on.
Win at all costs. I think you hit the nail on the head with a hammer there. Because you're absolutely right. It's created an atmosphere that's more usable. It's more usable space that wasn't usable before.
Well, it could have been, you could have decided to do boulders and a water feature and drought-tolerant plants. Would have been just as legitimate of a landscape. And I can go to someone's house and say, hey, this would be a great landscape for you. But what do I know? How they're going to use it?
I did.
But I'm saying instead, in the whole area, instead of no artificial turf.
Yeah, I agree.
And then you have no place for the games. You have no place for the kids. You take away all that usability, and that's my point. That's the key. So if you can decide why, if you're landscaping to play the games with the kids, to have this area to relax, so I can put my hammock out there. I can have a place to entertain our family. I can have a place for that table and chairs when we need an extra table outside for the kids during the party. Those are the whys. Those are the reasons. The how is really less important, and that's exactly what I'm talking about, because you could do 10 different beautiful landscapes in your backyard, but only one of them really fits your needs and your style.
And you're absolutely right, because I've done the synthetic turf thing. I've removed the previous turf that was there. I'm going to be selling this home here within the next couple of months or so, hopefully. So for me, leaving bare dirt, and I think this is one of the categories I didn't hear you mention, is you may be getting ready to sell a home. So in essence, for me, it was less expensive to throw bark around the areas that I'm not going to use, where I might have been putting concrete or pavers for a trash pad area. Instead of doing that, now I spend most of the money where we're going to be hanging out, and I just threw bark in those areas, a thick layer of bark, because I know I'm going to be leaving, but I know the potential buyers are not going to want to have just bare dirt back there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So a lot of times if you are planning on only staying in the home 2 years, 3 years, a couple months or whatever, and you still want to get something done for the time that you're there. We have a lot of clients in the military with all kinds of different situations. And okay, so you spend the money smartly, again, going back to that why. And that's the best way to get the most value for whatever you do, whether you're doing it yourself, you're hiring it out, or whatever you want to spend your time and energy and money on. That, going back to that why, and that how is really going to be the main thing.
And I think of one thing you always tell clients, because we've gone out and we've done plenty of estimates together, and I hear you, at least more so in the beginning when we started doing them, you'd ask the client, how do you see yourself using this space? And I think that is the key question to any landscaping, any renovation for your home.
Absolutely. And that is the why. How you're going to use it, or also, and to add to that, is how do you want it to feel? Do you want it to, I mean, it seems obvious to me, but maybe not to everyone, and everyone's priorities are different, but relaxed, atmosphere, the colors, everything should be soothing. And because you come home from work and the last thing you want to do is go out there and work some more.
You know what? The one thing you just said right now, I want to stop you because that brings up a really good point. Typically, most people work till 5, 6, 7 at night. You don't get to enjoy your backyard most of the day until the weekend comes around or a day off comes around. That's why I am I push for lighting so much because it creates that ambiance that you can enjoy after work. And I think for most people, they think of lighting as the last thing that they need. They think of everything else, but lighting is so very important because you're going to end up using it every single night. When you come home and you grab that glass of wine, or it's a nice warm weather outside, and you want a nice ambiance with lighting, I think that brings up a really good point.
Absolutely. And fire pit, the same thing.
I agree.
Fire pit's always the first thing to get cut out of the budget because it seems like an afterthought or something like, do we really need the fire pit? And then you're just looking at money and you're just looking at the budget. And I get it. That's a lot of us. We have to look at the budget. We have to look at the numbers and we have to see, what can we afford to do? But also, if you only are looking at the money, the other side of that is if you put it in, no lighting, no fire pit, you can't see it at night, there's no reason to go out in the backyard because you're going to be cold, then are you really getting the best value for what you spent?
I agree.
And it's if the purpose is there, if I want to come home and have a glass of wine on my back patio and have that truly be usable square footage of my house after hours, which is when I get home late or whatever, then you need lighting. All of a sudden, lighting and the fire pit become the priorities when you're thinking about how you're going to use it and the lifestyle that you're going to not only create back there and live in your money, which is a lot of times what we have the conversations that I have too. You have some number in the bank or some approval for some loan or whatever, net worth. But if you're not utilizing your money and living in it to it really bring your quality of life up, to me, that's what money's for. And so if you can swing it and you can do it and you can visualize how you see yourself using it, if a swimming pool is something that makes sense for you and for the grandkids to come over and the family gatherings and everybody comes to your place and the kids are in the pool or swimming around or whatever, and that becomes a gathering spot because of that. My mother-in-law's, my son loves to go to his grandma's house because he knows he's going to get to go in the pool. That's a reason to go over there.
Yeah.
If she wants to see him and she's provided that environment, guess what? It's gonna collect that. So all of a sudden, you go to price a swimming pool, how much a swimming pool to put in. Are you gonna use that every day of the year, whatever? You're weighing those types of options in your mind. But if you're thinking about your grandkids, you might make a different decision.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a lot of the people that we talk to say the same thing. I'm building a pool. I could think of a client, Mr. Vince.
Yeah, Rodriguez.
When I asked him, why are you building a pool back here? Because he's getting up there and I'm thinking, why spend the money? But he told me flat out, it's because of my grandkids. I have 8 grandkids. They've been running through these weeds in the backyard and saying, Grandpa, we need something back here. We need a pool, Grandpa. So he finally went out and did it. And I think that property turned out tremendously gorgeous.
Oh,
plant selection, everything.
He has, in my opinion, the ultimate meeting spot for family, grandkids, kids, just gatherings. I went over there and we were taking some pictures of his place the other day, and his wife had a group of paintings where they drink wine and they have
nice.
The wine with the paintings. Well, they had an event at his place. He now has basically almost like a mini event center at his home for him and his family, for groups, and if that's your stuff, not everybody is, is like a landscape aficionado or a gardening guru or, but if that's your thing, and I mean, I don't know. I mean, a home is a home, the even if you're not, I guess you could still enjoy all the effects of having a beautiful outdoor space, even if that's not your thing. And if it is, and you want a gathering place and you want to entertain, you need space. Like when we're making patios. Okay, well, how much is that patio going to be? And
you bring up a really good point, actually, because just this past week I went on a couple estimates, and the clients that I usually meet with, we're obviously talking about a patio.
Hold on, let's take a quick break,
okay,
and we'll get a word from our sponsor, and we'll talk about patios on the other side. If you're thinking about putting in a new Pavers patio or a paver driveway, call Chaparral Pavers, 805-588-6917. The best paver installer on the Central Coast. Check out their portfolio and customer reviews online. ILoveToComeHome.com. That's Chaparral Pavers, 805-588-6917. And on the web, ILoveToComeHome.com.
And we're back. Thank you for our sponsorship there.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
We're talking about patios.
Yes, we're talking about patios. So this previous week, for the past couple weeks, I've been experiencing a lot of clients that want smaller patios. The first question I ask them is, why do you want a small patio? And the first thing they say is usually price. I always try to tell our clients, look, the patio is going to be where you hold all of your guests. It's where the tables are going to be, the chairs are going to be. You're not going to put a table and chairs in the grass if you have a patio there. So I tell them, go bigger on the patio and then work your landscaping around your patio. Use that as kind of your guiding point, your focal point is your patio.
Yeah, because if you're basing, again, same thought process. Are you basing the size of your patio based on money, or are you basing it on how you're going to use the patio?
And sometimes it could be they're cramming in this budget and they want everything in this budget, but they're creating a smaller atmosphere when they should be focused more on finish this part of the project and then think about a phase 2 for the future.
Absolutely. That's a great point and great thing to bring up, because if you find yourself in a position where you don't have enough budget to do everything that you want to do, don't force all those pieces in there by getting a cheaper price or doing cheaper things or doing smaller things so that you can afford it. Go ahead and stay true to that vision. Stay true to your why. First, you got to figure out what is your personal why. I feel like sometimes we don't sit down and think of that. Like really sit down and ask yourself, ask your husband or your wife, ask your kids, ask, maybe have a
what you just said?
There.
I like that. You said ask your kids. A lot of people don't do that, but I mean, they are the ones that are going to be out in the backyard more than anybody else sometimes.
Yeah, and
I like that.
Walk, or really sit down and look and notice, like, what are they doing? Oh, they're trying to ride. There was a bit I was on last night, and he said the grandkids were riding their tricycles, and he had a pathway of rocks and stepping stones.
Okay.
And they're trying to ride their bikes through the rock. Because it was like, he had a nice backyard in Fox and Woods, and they just don't make properties like that anymore.
They
with a
don't.
Nice big yard.
Agree.
He had a huge patio, which was great, big lawn, and then a walkway. Rather than having a mow strip, a lot of times we have around the grass, he had a 3-foot walkway all the way around the grass, but it was made out of rock and stepping stones. Well, it was kind of like a little track for them to ride their bikes and stuff on, and little scooters or whatever they had. And, he wanted to turn that into pavers, but he was doing it because he had noticed how the grandkids were using the yard, and then he wanted to accommodate that. So he had the why in mind, he had the goal in mind, and then we were just deciding what materials. And
that's awesome.
To me, that's the smartest way. That's the best way. And that's why I wanted this program today to be on that, to really think about, sometimes even ourselves, we put ourselves last, or you might think of like everything else that everybody else wants. Like, hey, he was a very, observant and caring person, and he wanted to spend, money so his grandkids could ride bikes. So what are his needs, or what? And so what are your spouse's needs, or, whatever the case may be, because if you're going to invest your hard-earned money, all of us, when we earn our money, we spend a lot of our lives away from our families to get that. So it means a lot. It means a lot to me when we do a job and we set these prices for people, and we want to improve the quality of their life, I want to make sure we're doing it, because the closer we get to their why, and that's part of what I feel is our job too, is to help them get to that why, even if they don't know that that's really what my intent is, by asking questions about the landscape. When I ask those questions, how do you see yourself using this? What are some of your favorite colors, or does that traffic noise, does that affect your day when you come home and you hear the cars going? Could we do a water feature to mask that? I don't want to just do a water feature because I love water features and I think, oh, that's the greatest thing, for this person. It's if it feels a need, or if the sight of birds, feeding. I see a lot of people with a bird feeder right by the window, and they're doing dishes or whatever, but what makes them happy and what gives them a little relief from that day-to-day grind, or looking at, or the gross smells of the old coffee mug or whatever. Yeah, you've got this hummingbird coming in, to the window. And to me, birds love water too. So if we put a water feature that attracts birds, it goes along with I see the bird feeders. Now things are starting to make sense. And that could be the difference in the contractor that you choose. Is he attentive to your needs? Did he ask you how you're going to use the yard? Did he want to know why you wanted this? Did he offer, a couple, 2-3 different solutions of how to accomplish that with different budgets? That's how you know you've got the right guy to work with. And that's how you really know at the end of the day, when you're finished with the job and it's all done, you've spent the money, it's a lot harder to go back and say, oh, well, now you go to put that table and chairs out there, and you barely have 6 inches to even move the chair back to get out of the table. And, the guy barbecuing, you're trying to, scoot around or something, and you just don't have, it didn't turn out to be what you thought. And here you've got all this money and everything invested, and we've seen it. We go back, I was bidding a job, and there was the patio went out 6 feet from the house. Beautiful concrete, stamped, all wavy and curvy. And they're calling me to expand the patio. It's like,
that's exactly what I'm talking about. You see that too often, and you think, to you it's a no-brainer. It's like, bring it out more. Bring that patio out more. You have a huge yard. Why are you scared to put a huge patio? One of the recent bids that we went on together there in Orchid, off of Telephone Road, I think he had a beautiful backyard with a ocean view. And I mean, this place was just gorgeous.
As ocean views you can get in Orchid.
It's the only ocean view. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Sure.
But you had views of the mountains. I mean, it was a gorgeous backyard.
Sure, for sure.
When he brought us the plans though for his backyard, it was a smaller patio, and I'm thinking, man, if this was my yard, I'd try to go as big as I can with a patio, because you're going to be entertaining. You're going to have people there. Why not go big?
Or if you know yourself really well, you want to keep, you don't want people too comfortable or staying too long, or, again, it's a very individualized, case by case. Everyone's different. If I just want enough room for a bistro set, 2 chairs, even a front entry, I've seen with a tiny little seating area with a bench, might be appropriate. And so sometimes small is good, but I tend to think like what you're talking about, which is I've never had anybody say the patio's too big.
I agree.
And it is a higher likelihood that, if you go small or you go just what you think and not really leaving room for anything else or any ideas that you might have later, that it is possible that we're in that situation like I was talking about with the concrete, where you want to expand. Okay, well, now what do you do? You've got existing, stamped and stained concrete, extremely difficult to match. Well, they were asking me to add on with pavers. Well, now you've got concrete to a point, and then you add the pavers, and you can always kind of tell that, it was an afterthought, and you're trying to add that on. I'm thinking, well, how are we going to, it was all curvy, how are we going to match the cuts into there?
Sure.
And so really, the solution was to take out that 6 foot, because it wasn't a huge amount, but now you've got the cost of taking that out, and now you've got the extra square footage to replace that plus the addition, and the number gets higher. And it's like, it's that classic thing of do it right the first time, or think it through, or figure out the whys and don't do it. And then realize that, well, it was a cheaper price, but now that I realize this is really what I want, you end up paying more because you paid for the concrete, you paid for the removal, and now you're paying for the larger patio. So that's what I'm really trying to get you guys out there to think about and save. And that's what I mean by value. So even if you pay a little bit more up front, or you do the right things, or you don't try to complete the whole project all at once and really put yourself in a position to take your time and do it right, then you're going to save a lot of money in the long run, for sure.
I agree. Change orders can be quite expensive.
Yeah, well, especially if you have to take something out once you've already done that. And
exactly. And I always think to myself too, if I'm not happy with the end result, you can always add a couple more boulders, a couple plants. Everything that we design with extending it for the future, lighting, irrigation, sleeves, everything. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, we can put sleeves or empty pipes that you put underneath the pavers or any kind of hardscape, walls, plan for electrical, more drip, extra valves.
Even if you don't think you're going to do it.
Exactly.
One of the bids we went on, the guy might not end up using low voltage lighting in one of these areas, but we still told him to run a sleeve. It's really low cost to run a sleeve compared to having to come back later on and moving pavers or drilling under a sidewalk or something.
Yeah, it undermines. We spent all that time doing the base and everything, compaction, and then you just run a water pipe under there and undermine it. Even concrete. I mean, concrete withstands it, but eventually it's going to crack underneath there and settle and gives and you know what? Even with lighting too, and it goes with everything. So you decide, well, when I come home, I do want lighting. Well, okay, and if you can't necessarily afford it in phase one, the solution should not be go out and buy the cheapest, lights at some box store, because whatever that money that you're spending, that's less money you're going to be able to put towards the nice lighting system that's gonna last.
And you bring up a good point. The lighting system that you can get installed by a professional is going to look tremendously more beautiful. It's going to be actual metal. It's going to be meant to withstand 10 years versus the lights you're going to pick up at the box store that are going to be more of an eyesore. They're going to be black. You don't get raw copper. You don't get your choice of colors or anything like that.
Yeah, and some of them are plastic. And especially if you go with the solar ones, or you go down to the box store where you need to get the card to get in and everything, and it's like, you see them and they're reasonable cost for a lot of lights seemingly, but then you go out there, you put them out and they're having very little light output. The color's not right. The fixtures don't last, and they actually can make a really nice landscaping look cheap.
You've seen it too often.
And it really detracts, and it can make it look much worse. And if you're not a lighting designer, which, they're pretty rare. I mean, even for us, we've been doing it for a long time, but there's an art form to how to put lights and what it looks like. And I call them the runway lights. I go down and I get the 20 pack of the solar lights and the plastic thing and whatever, and I just put them all two right up the sidewalk, and that's just not how you do it, and it just doesn't really do you any favors or help. And so that's kind of what we're up against. And again, if you see how yourself using them, you see that there's a value there, and what you want to do, you recognize that, you have a job and you come home late in the evenings and you want to enjoy, we're saying do it, but do it in a way that it's going to be last. It's not going to be frustrating.
It's going to be tasteful.
Yeah. They're not going to be broken. You're not going to be, they don't even work. It was cloudy that day. So, that's thinking about the why, really considering how you and your family are going to go out there and to use it, and stay true to your why, and really reflect back on that on every decision. So we are out of time here on this show. Thanks for tuning in to Patio Side Chats with Chaparral. I am Fernando Martinez and was here with my partner, Jonathan Araya. You can always catch us on the web at ilovetoComeHome.com. And we mean that. So if you want to call us, 805-588-6917. We're here every Sunday, 12:30 right here on KSMA. Give us a tweet if you have any questions, or email Fernando at ilovetoComeHome.com and Twitter at ilovetoComeHome. Have a good week, and we'll see you next week.
This has been Patio Side Chats with Fernando Martinez from Chaparral Pavers. Go to ilovetoComeHome.com to find out more or call 805-588-6917. And be sure and tune in next week at this same time for Patio Side Chats here on KSMA.